When you run cron, for example, for a PHP website, you need to have the PHP executable and all the additional add-ons installed on the host machine. But what do you do when your PHP application is a container in a container? Well, in this case, you also run the container you also run the cron in that same container, and this is how I managed to do it. I created an example command, an example with the commands, the minimal setup for cron in a container. The first command, basically, if you run it manually, Docker doesn't allow communication between containers under the default bridge network, so you need to create a user-defined one. But if you use a compose file, Docker compose will create the network for you. So the minimal requirement to run any cron in a Docker container is just this one. Basically what it does, it starts the container, it binds the Docker sock, and inside the cron container it uses the Docker as a client only, and it connects to the Docker server on the host using the socket file. You need a domain name only if you want to receive emails with the results for each cron command. Otherwise you don't need the domain name and the mail too, and the SMTP. The only thing you need is a Docker API version. This is required because if the Docker host server is an older version than the Docker client installed in the cron container, then it will return an API mismatch error. This already happened to me once, and I figured that the Docker allow you the Docker client uses this environment, the Docker API version, so it reverts back to an older version, which should match the API version of the host server. So the only requirement is this one. I will show you the full example with sending the emails. So first, all of these commands are copy and paste. So first I will create the network. The network is ready, and then I will run the SMTP container, which will be sending the emails with the results for each command. Again, it's all copy and paste, and now it's running. Okay, there are a few warnings, but these are harmless. I can see that the SMTP server is running, and now we can start the cron itself. There are a couple of cron commands that I have set up using the environment variables. Again, the cron commands are set using the cron task environment variable, and you can set as many as you like, as long as they are in this format. So cron task and then underscore and whatever you need here. Actually, I think you need a number. So cron task underline and then the cron task number. So now if I run the logs, so the logs from the cron container already show. For simplicity, I have set to run the cron command every minute, but you can set it for any schedule you need. The cron is running, and it already run the cron once. So this is from command 1 and this is from command 2, and it already sent an email with the results from these commands. Now the email format uses this format, cron underscore, this is hard coded, and then this is the host name of the container. And then domain.com is taken from the domain environment. So if I enter, if you want to change the host name, you need to add another environment here. No, actually you need to change the host name of the container itself, and you do this with the host command. Actually, I can show you here. There it is. So if you change the host name of the container in which you run this command, the email will use the host name here. So if this command was something like, actually maybe I can even show you. Okay, let's remove the cron. And then let's start another cron, but this time the command will be different for one of the containers. Docker run, okay, host, let's say this is a development machine, and let's see if it worked. Docker logs follow. Let's see if it will send an email using the host name. Okay, in the meanwhile, what else is there? Yes, for the SMTP server, there are a few required environment variables. One of them is the interval, how often it will send the queued emails, the processing type, which is queue only load large. You can look it up in the. It's using exim, so you can look up all of these settings in the exim documentation. SMTP remote. This is how many parallel sendings it should do. These are only useful if the SMTP server is under heavy load. For example, if you need to tweak it on how many to send per minute, how many connections, parallel connections to run, and how many emails to send on each run. And this is useful. This means that delete any undelivered messages after 3 hours. Otherwise, if you don't have this set, it will queue up all the undelivered messages, and after a while you will see hundreds and hundreds of emails that hasn't been sent, but they still remain in the SMTP queue, in the mail queue. Okay, let's see. No, this didn't work. Okay, host name. Okay, I will pause the video and I will find out why this didn't work. Okay, I found out what was the problem. Basically, now I have removed. Now it's on the SMTP server. Basically, when you run the when you create the cron container, it takes the host name for the emails. It takes the host name of the cron container, not the command. Not the command in which you not the container in which you run the command from the cron. So basically, this is the right format. You set up the host name of the cron container. Docker logs follow. Okay, now you will see that it will send the email taking the host name as the user before the add sign. Okay, what else? Yes, the reason why I created or the logic behind why I created it this way. Many tutorials online, they suggest mount binding the executables, the Docker executable itself, but I don't think this is a good approach, because initially Docker started as a single executable, but now it's split, and it requires there is what was the name of it, ARM something library, which is a requirement to run the Docker, and I imagine with the next releases these requirements will grow. So if you're trying to run Docker inside a container, it will be very easy to break with the future releases. But if you just bind the Docker stock, then you can use just the Docker as a client, and I think it will work without any problems. And then why do we run the commands inside a container? Well, basically, if you have, let's say if you have a PHP application, usually it has got quite a few installed packages. So if you run the PHP inside the host itself, it will quite likely be missing these packages, so it will return all sort of errors. So the best way to run Cron is in the container with your application itself. So here you can either use Docker run, or you can also use Docker exec. I will show you in a minute how. Okay, so you can see now it's using the format cron, which is hard coded, and then dev, which is taken from the host name. Where is it? Okay, yes, the host name here. So now for the cron command, instead of having it like this, you can also set it using, so for example, if I want to run a command in an existing container, it needs to be running. So if I want to run a command inside the SMTP container, for example, I would do the following. Docker exec, let's say if I want to run and then the name of the container. So basically first is the container name. Anything you can run in the terminal, you can also run it as a cron job. So you see, if I set, let me remove the Docker, the cron, and I will show you how to run a cron inside a running container. Cron, okay, this is removed, and now I will run it again with this. Okay, Docker, let's run it under task 1. Okay, so from Docker exec is MTP, okay, yeah, that should do it. So basically you can run cron, by spinning up a new container, or you can run cron inside a running container. What I found best is to run cron inside a new container, because let's say for example if you stop the container, if I stop the SMTP container right now, the cron will return an error. So it will be best if you spin up a new container from an existing image. Basically, it will be the same image as you use for your application, so it has all the additional add-ons in setup and requirements, but it will be run as a new container, self-contained container. So this worked. What else? Let me see. Okay, yes, you can run this as a cron. Let me show you how you can run it as a cron, as a compose. Again, copy and paste. Let me remove all containers. I'm inside the same directory, so just docker compose up. Okay, something is not right. Let's see. What is wrong here? The environment variables. Maybe I just needed to remove the extra new line. Okay, I will pause the view and I will find out what's wrong here. Okay, the problem was that it needed an extra tab. So basically, after the service name, all the other parameters or all the other variables for this service, they need to be tabbed. And this was what's missing. And now let me clear the file and do another copy and paste. And here it was missing this tab. It was something like this. Well, actually, you need spaces, so tabs will not work in the YAML file. Docker compose and just up. And now it's all good. It is starting, and in a second we'll see that it will run the command and it will send the email inside the SMTP container. What else? Yes, the logs. This is self-explanatory for each container. Yeah, try it and let me know. I'm thinking maybe even a better design will be to use, instead of mount binding the Docker sock, will be to use the Docker remote API, but it will probably bring the commands to run the cron jobs will become too complicated. For example, if you want to execute a command, you can see what's the syntax. No, it was somewhere else. Where was that? Execute create. There it is. So I need to make a post. You can do this using curl. I just recently found out that you can use curl, and you still need the socket, so you can communicate with the daemon. Where was this? Yeah, one of the latest versions of curl allow you to make requests using sockets. So the Docker sock and then the rest API call. But again, this will become quite long and you will need to run probably a few commands to get what you need. And the only advantages is that you don't rely on the Docker client. But in my opinion, I think keeping the Docker client will be the cleaner solution. So now, yes, we can see that it sent the emails. It is returning an error message here because the SMTP container is also set to use encryption key for the emails, but I haven't set it just for the sake of simplicity on this tutorial. But again, it's harmless. All the emails are sent. It continues to run the commands. So yeah,